Peace, peace, peace. What's goody good? Yeah. All right. Welcome back to another Smack Dab session. I'm your boy, DJ Dab, aka The Last Dragon. And I just want to welcome all my cosmic kinfolk to another great little dab of information for that ass. You know what I mean? The title of this lecture is Kundalini Ex, Machina, if you want to be nasty with it. But we're going to dive into some really awesome topics, as usual. Stuff that is talked about in mainstream pseudosciences, mystical realms, mystical talks in circles. But at the end of the day, what are they really talking about? And do they have actual grasp of what they're telling you so that you feel your best every time you get into this kind of situation? And I mean a situation where you get to understand the power of lightning and Kundalini. Let me start off this lecture by just saying, recently someone hit me up on my IG page, was like, with this no thought zone dab, like, are you serious and how? And in my most succinct way, without having to get on the phone with them and type maybe, tons and tons of paragraphs and information, I led that person right to binaural beats. Now, delta brainwaves at that. If you ever come to me and ask me where to start, I'm going to respond the same way I respond to everybody. Start with something that gives you a basis for measuring your growth. And binaural beats aren't top secret anymore, but the stuff I'm about to talk about is top secret. So take the stuff that's not top secret and start to utilize it in your daily life. And then when you start to listen more about this stuff that I'm talking about, this top secret, you can actually begin to use these tools. Otherwise, this stuff is just a lecture and it isn't meant for you yet. But that's great because, again, stop. This is top secret because I'm giving you the secret thoughts of people. And I mean that in a way where, like, you know how psychics, if they've ever tapped into you, you can start to fear what they might know about you, but really, they don't know that. And that's what's awesome about it. That's just, again, their own secret thoughts that are vibing with you. I call it sympathetic human synchronicity. So one must be able to identify with thoughts in order to find someone else's thoughts. And that's the secret thoughts of people. But where do we begin besides in the brain? After having gone through the brain structures and explained to you where you have your Ra, your Kepra, and why those creatures in your brain are manifestations of potential godlike elements that you must take control of because you have not been given the training and or knowledge on that's important. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? So my goal is to uplift everybody through this Kundalini experience that we're all going to experience, no matter who you are, low vibration, high vibration. The cycle of mass consciousness is now set up in a way where everybody's experiencing it at a high rate. They call it the age of Aquarius, the Aquarianism, the pouring out of the water, the pouring out of the intellect. Well, here we are. Let's pour out some intellect onto our golden spine here, right? Balanced. A balanced spine, right? It has a 3 and a 3. In my lectures, I've gotten you very familiar with when I show you numbers that I'm specifically saying something extra deep. So this is understanding and understanding. That's double understanding, which is an equality, okay? You are also harboring a creature inside of you that is made out of nothing but these vertebrae. And it is an equality structured being like a lot of the other beings you must learn to control. Now, you might call this the snake in the garden of Adam and Eve, where they were, in the garden. You might call it that. Remember, it was cursed to walk the ground or slither on the ground without, limbs. Well, that's really like saying a lowered Kundalini to the being that gave the knowledge to Adam and Eve. They would suffer a lowered Kundalini. Well, glad to say that our Kundalini, our snake, stands upright. Our snake faces the sun. It does not crawl on its belly. It stands upright when it's in its healthiest condition with all its limbs and appendages in place, and it finds a balance, core, okay? And the beautiful thing about the vertebrae up and down our spine is every single one of them is unique and has a specific reason for its placement and causes the shape we're seeing here of the spine, right? So here, let's just go into the top. Let's start from the top and go down. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cervical vertebrae. And that's a God being right there, obviously. Your cervical vertebrae are counted in 7. And the reason why we have different sections of vertebrae is because of this curvature, all right? Pretty much this curvature determines what kind of vertebrae are in that structured area. So in this top curve, we have 7 of the cervical vertebrae, giving us a connection straight to the brain, where the top one is actually fused to the skull and allows for the motion of up and down and left and right. It's got a pivot on both hinges, while a lot of these other ones don't. So that top vertebrae, number 1, that knowledge vertebrae connecting to the skull, the cranium, is a very unique vertebrae all by itself. Then you have the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, the number 5, the number 6, and the number 7, your God vertebrae. That's where all of a sudden you see, like, these things are shaped like wedges, okay? So that means they're not fully conical, they're not, cone shaped. They actually kind of are, but they're wedge shaped, okay? And that allows for them to do this bending. It looks like a irregular, why doesn't your spine up and down? Well, it's because these are wedge shaped, and for them to fit together in the way they do, the wedges allow for purposely push them into this type of vibratorial look. So you're seeing here that the 7th one connects to another set of 12. Maybe that's like your 12 disciples in your spine. We won't have to, add a lot of cliches to this. I'll stick to very basic rudimentary stuff, not tainted with the proverbial knowledge that's passed along when you see certain numbers. But so we have 12 vertebrae here in the dorsal vertebrae. Dorsal, what's a dorsal? You think about dorsal maybe when you hear of the fin on a dolphin, like that part of the back is dorsal. Why? Because it's arched outward. So the dorsal fin on a dolphin would be right about there, probably some in between the spine numbers. So you have 6 and 6, and it's probably sitting like right there, a dorsal fin. Okay, imagine you have one too. Why not? I mean, at one point you were a more aquatic creature, and this dorsal part of your body was very much adept into undulating rhythmically. This is the dancing part of our body. This is our spine that wants to undulate. You know what I mean? And in that undulation, it's contracting and expanding all of that bone structure. Bones vibrate, by the way. I mean, you pluck it, it vibrates. You fit your funny bones in different spots, right? Right there at your elbow, right there, and it vibrates, and it's this shocking sensation that shoots up you like electricity. Well, these dorsal vertebrae are also kind of in the same situation. You pluck the right ones, and you can start sparks up your spinal cord. Again, I'm not even equating this to where your chakras are in the body yet, but we can do that on a later session in the more in-depth supplemental information. But right here, you can see like the major part of your chakras are caught up in the dorsal vertebrae. So, undulating your dorsal vertebrae in a great way is a good way to help free your Kundalini. And I mean free it because it's there. It's already moving. But it does not want to feel stagnant. If it feels stagnant, then it just falls down like the barometer on the temperature gauge outside when it gets cold. You gotta heat it up. So we'll move down to the lower vertebrae here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 more, right? And these are the lumbars, right? L1, L2, L3, L4. You've heard that talk before in sports therapy where somebody's hurt the L1 or the L2. Well, that's your lower back, of course. It's your lumbar vertebrae. It's the ones with, the sacral chakra. It's very deep. You do not want to neglect these vertebrae either. There's only 5, but that's a powerful number of vertebrae that are conducting some kind of also rising of energy. Now, you can start the raising here or you can start the raising here. Like I just said, you can start the raising here from your gut or you can start the raising here from your root. Now, when you start from your root, you're actually going to have a lot more of the Kundalini fluid because you have got more volume in the lower vertebrae of fluid than you do in the higher vertebrae for the fluid that surrounds the spinal cord. And I haven't even really talked about that and how it's encased in this beautiful structure, right? This beautiful creature that is living in us and holding that very, very powerful root structure of us together, and keeping it safe from harm and destruction. So basically, you're dealing with a creature that's just so powerful in your back that it can send energy to the head and light it up like a light bulb, Bong. So let's count how many vertebrae we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Why do you only count 24 here, Dab? Why isn't there 33? Well, that's no mystery, even to scientists, because the other minor bones, the other 9, are in the sacrum. What is a sacrum? Let's go look that word up. How about that? Let's go look up what the sacrum is, okay? Okay, let's just get a real meaning of what the tailbone is. Sacrum, it forms the posterior pelvic wall and strengthens and stabilizes the pelvis. Joined at the very end of the sacrum are 2 or 4 tiny, partially fused vertebrae known as the coxal and the tailbone. What is the sacrum meaning? All right, it's not getting us any deeper, but a triangular bone structure in the lower back formed in fused vertebrae situated between the hip bones and the pelvis, right? So a great structure here for pivoting. Just like this is good for pivoting, this is good for pivoting. These structures are made specifically for pivots, okay? And all in all, when you add all of the bones that you see here, you get 33. Okay, down to the coccyx. Down to this word I will not pronounce right. But all of these bones together tie back into your 33 vertebrae up your spine. The 33 keys you must learn to play correctly like the keys of piano so that you can have amazing tree structure. Because you're growing a tree here. That's the other reference that's bound by your spine, is that this is your tree. It's hiding a structure that when it comes out of here has a lot of different roots. That's your spinal cord. When it comes down here, if you go look in medical diagrams, it's a root structure. Let's just look it up. I didn't prepare this whole slideshow, so basically bottom of spine, and we want to go spinal cord, right? Spelled totally wrong. But let's get a good image of it. Something that's going to at least attack this idea here. That's going to attack this idea. Right? So I can zoom in on that for you. Now look at all these roots that come out here. Look at all this. Look at all these roots. They're hitting something. They're planted in something. They're planted in sexuality. They're planted in procreation. They're planted in reproduction. So you better be aware that the lower part of your spinal cord isn't just for pleasure and just for reproduction. It's also for pivoting. It's also for changing. So at the alchemist's toolbox, you'll use your lower area of your body for creating great change. And I'll tell you straight up, if you masturbate from your lower chakra, you actually should do it with the intent of keeping in the orgasm so that you can shoot that energy up your spine. Like I said, you want to start from the biggest structures in your spine so the energy is gathered greatly. Here it's great, but here it's greater. So a masturbator, it should be a very powerful Kundalini practitioner once they realize that's what they're doing, because you might not be connecting with another being's physical connection, but you in yourself are releasing that built up body fluid, be it masculine body fluid or female body fluid, and you're releasing it, and you're not pushing it straight up your spine. It's coming out of you from your dick or your pussy or your penis or your vagina. These places are very special and need the warmest attention. Don't neglect that part of your tree, because we're going to get right into what the lower chakra is, more about this Malakut in other lessons, but it's not for this lesson. I think this lesson was meant just to break down a couple of things, spark some interest, get some conversation going, and play around with it. So here I have, a tree of life from some theology teachers who deal with Comedicism. And then I have one on the right here, the tree of life that is taught in, Kabbalah, or, some of the other Hermetic teachings. And a lot of times on this diagram, they'll be missing this one. They'll be missing the da'at. They do that on purpose because they're trying to make it almost like an initiation system where you must be initiated in to understand the da'at or the knowledge. Well, I'm doing this with you and for you, and also as your Sirius star teacher, because we've got a Sirius A, a Sirius C, and a Sirius B at the top of the tree that must be recognized so that you can take that power back. Because if you're only dealing with the Sirius C, which is our sun, and you've forgotten about Sirius A and B, then you're only from your crown. But your Binah and your Hokmah also want balancing to be able to make your crown that much better. And your crown is also your Horus, which is depicted right here. Horus wears the crown of the solar disk, the sun, our Sirius C. Now, you're saying, Dad, but what is Binah and Hokmah? Or what is Dahuti and Ma'at? Well, do you want to go translate these right in real time? We can, but I think that that's something you should do, because if I don't give you that part of your own discovery, then I'm spoon-feeding you something that doesn't mean jack at the end of the day. All I'm doing right now is trying to spark your curiosity, because if your curiosity isn't sparked, then this isn't really something you need to understand, right? Because the duat, the underworld right here, okay, is order from the mother, and she has power. But the duat here, okay, is also representative of the knowledge that is hidden in the Kemetic version of this. We don't hide the duat. It's pure knowledge, and it should be understood as the underworld. It's the inner world knowledge. This outer world knowledge gives you nothing but misinformation based on today's current place and time, okay? We are not gathering truth. A lot of times, what you're seeing that gets released to the general public is a layer of truth. Just like I explained to you here, they hide the da'at in the tree of life most of the time when they're teaching it. It's just recently that Kabbalist teachers have thought, oh, it's time to start talking about the da'at. That is a sacrilege. That is what's kept people from occupying their third eye. That is the truth. The hidden knowledge of the inner knowledge, the underworld knowledge, is what makes people more tuned and adept to their psychic wisdom, more tuned to the basics of the laws of Ma'at without having to be read them when you're born on the planet. You're given the laws of Ma'at as your balanced state. You're taken away from them as you're learning other things that aren't in balance on purpose. The caduceus, in fact, is a hidden message of the Da'at, and again, the Kundalini that spirals, crisscrossing itself up the channels of the tree of life. So if you're willing to play around and learn more about the Da'at in you, your hidden knowledge, and not seek knowledge externally in the world of man, in the world of woman, and you can pass to the underworld on your own and come back reborn with that knowledge, you're going to feel a lot different. You're going to be a being of high vibration, not only when low vibration comes around and you must lower it yourself into that vibration, because you'll part that vibration like water, like Moses spreading the Red Sea open for the children of Israel. Okay, that's a whole other part of the lexicon of the verbal stew, word salad that gets thrown around, because Israel had to cross through the Red Sea on purpose to get out of Egypt, right? It wasn't like they didn't belong in Egypt. They were already perfectly acclimated to Egypt, but they were supposedly enslaved there. But yet they were able to keep all their names, all their tradition, which really was the culture that was already there in Israel. In Egypt. Where else did Israel come from? Where else did they come from? They were brown melanated people of Isis's cult, who was part of the Ra understanding of El. The Els, the Sha'els, the Ra'els, the Dabelins, Elohims. So the Elohim are our gods, us. All of our structure in our body is telling us we were the Elohim. And we have left a lot of that Elohimishness behind. Now, I'm an Elohim here going, look, the Saturn god ain't playing it. It's Saturn Day, my favorite day of the week. And if you're missing my Saturn god sign, it's right here. Look at that. They surround the Da'at. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sign surrounds the Da'at, my friends. It surrounds Da'at. So if your quality can surround your Da'at, your secret knowledge of self, you'll stop listening to other people. And with that note, I hope your Kundalini is rising very fast, going, I will not listen to anybody else. Shoot, it's all in me. It's the God in me. No, you are God structures, bodily wise. Out there, your spiritual soul thing that has to connect to this body wishes you just utilize the tools better so that you could understand the secret thoughts of people aren't that mystical. And on that note, it's 12 p.m. here on the East Coast time, and I'm checking out. It's been awesome. Peace.